That's a big boy. He's strong. You know, you box good. You can do this. You got this over him. You're gonna have to tighten up this. You're gonna have to do this. You know, it's a conversation.
With Canelo said, I believe Canelo at one particular.
Floyd Mayweather's first words after training with Terence Crawford were filled with confidence, as he shared valuable insights to help Crawford prepare for a potential fight against Canelo Alvarez.
My idea. So at one particular time, you guys can, anybody, you can go online and pull this up. It was an article. So with Canelo said, I believe Canelo at one particular time thought I was scared of him, you know, that I was afraid. So he said, Floyd don't want to fight me. I'm willing to meet him at 152 pounds or 152 and a half. And me, I called his bluff and said, if you want to do it, let's do it at 152 or 152 and a half. And, but after Canelo made the weight, it wasn't like it was a certain clause to where he couldn't gain weight. So after he weighed 152 or 152 and a half, I think he came in like 168 or close to 170. And actually I came in at probably like I probably came in at 151 and 152.
Gotcha.
But Roy Jones is one hell of a fighter. You know, I can't get on here and hate on his skills and knock his skills. He's been through a lot in the sport of boxing, and he's done a lot for the sport of boxing, and I'm absolutely proud of it.
Mayweather, widely regarded as one of the greatest boxers of all time, expressed his willingness to train Crawford, offering his experience and strategic wisdom, especially after having defeated Canelo Alvarez back in 2013.
Terence Crawford jumping up from 154 to 168 and beating this quote-unquote version of Canelo Alvarez would diminish the accomplishment that Floyd Mayweather accomplished beating his version of Canelo Alvarez. Is it two different versions of Canelo Alvarez? And obviously, Canelo Alvarez is 62 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, 39 big wins by way of knockout. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is obviously bigger. When Floyd fought him, it was at 152 catch weight, but it had no rehydration clause. So you might as well just say it was at 154. Now, two things they have in common is that Floyd Mayweather was 36, 37 years of age. Terence Crawford is 37 years of age, going on 38. So he'll be 38 when he fights Canelo Alvarez. Floyd had already had 2 fights at 154. He had the fight with Miguel Cotto, and he had
Mayweather's extensive knowledge and experience could be extremely beneficial for Crawford, particularly if he steps up to face Canelo. Floyd's mastery in the ring could be the key to preparing Crawford for such a high-profile challenge. In a moment of reflection, Mayweather highlighted the importance of his own career and achievements, stating, "You know, I didn't have to have 70, 150, or 300 fights to prove myself. Did I or did I not beat the most world champions?"
Just in the gym, they probably heard I was there, so they wanted to pull up. You know what I'm saying?
What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really spoke to Floyd before. I've met him half a dozen times, and we've sort of said hello and all that kind of stuff. But actually, he's a funny fucker. He is. And I'm single-handedly making Terence Crawford the most popular fighter in the world, because I am the only one that's ever brought out his personality. True or false? Like, and Terence is one of the top guys in the sport.
But even if he wasn't, you'd still say that because your business mind now is working and you're going, oh,
I wouldn't say top. I might say top, but he's unbelievably humble. Let me give you an example. Terence Crawford is with Steve Nelson's team, okay? They are staying at a hotel, part of the Cosmopolitan Group, across the street. All right, nice hotel.
Oh, my hotel, actually.
Yeah, okay. Nice, right, but, you know, there are many more fancy hotels in Las Vegas, okay? He has a standard room there. And we said to him, listen, do you want us to get you he could go into any hotel in Vegas and get a palatial suite. And he said, no, I want to stay with Steve for the week in a standard room. Now, to some people, they might go, oh, big deal. You know what people are like. I don't know many people that would actually do that. Floyd definitely wouldn't do that. But Terence is probably one of the most humble fighters in his position of the sport. And do you know what I love about being in environments like that last night? The love for the sport. Like Terence is watching Shakur sparred. Shakur sparred 14 rounds. 14 4-minute rounds with 30-second breaks. And Terence and Floyd watched the entire spar. They then went to another ring and watched another.
Yes, I did, and I did it in the least amount of fights, he continued. Who had the highest gate? Floyd Mayweather. Who made the most money? Mr. Who was the most accurate fighter of all time? That's right, me. So it's basically saying that I am the greatest of all time. Floyd also reflected on his 2013 bout with Canelo Alvarez.
I had to have 70 fights, or 150 fights, 300 fights. Did I not beat the most world champions?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And in the least amount of fights?
Yes, you did.
Who got the highest gate?
Floyd Mayweather.
Who made the most money?
You did.
Who was the most accurate fighter of all time?
You were.
So it's basically saying that...
The greatest of all time.
Okay.
All right.
Focusing on the size difference during the fight, he mentioned, I probably came in at 151 or 152 pounds, emphasizing the weight disparity. Despite being the smaller fighter, Mayweather dominated the younger, stronger Canelo with his skill, precision, and experience, ultimately solidifying his legacy as one of boxing's all-time greats. Mayweather went on to recount an interesting moment before their fight, revealing, at one particular time, Canelo thought I was scared of him. He said Floyd didn't want to fight him, and that he was willing to meet me at 152 pounds.
It may be a done deal. Terence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez. Early thoughts? What do you think?
Yeah, look, the first thought is, can he handle the weight jump? Can he handle the weight jump? He being Crawford against Matvedorf, people are going to say, "Oh, he had some hiccups." Who don't have hiccups? When you eat something that's a little difficult to eat, and Matvedorf was a little difficult to eat. He's not easy to digest. He's a good fighter. When you eat something that's a little tough to digest, you get hiccups, right? So come on, he's human. So he had a few hiccups. He won the fight. He's Terence Crawford. A lot of people say, "Oh, Teddy, you make him so good. You're always saying how great Crawford is." But who's he beating? He unified the. What was his first division? Lightweight. Then he unified the junior. Then he unified the junior welter. Then he unified the welter. I think I got the weight classes right. It doesn't matter. He unified like 3 different weight classes. He moved up in weight. He's beaten anybody that they put in front of him. He beat an undefeated fighter in Errol Spence that everybody thought was just like, one of the best fighters out there, which he was. He was one of the top fighters pound for pound out there, and he didn't just beat him. He dismantled him. He might have ruined him. We were talking about getting ruined in fights earlier. He might have ruined him. We don't know. He hasn't been back yet, Spence. He may have psychologically, physically ruined him. But he has done everything asked of him, and he's done it in a superb way. It's not that he's just won. I look at how people win. How versatile are they? How mentally together are they? What happens when they're tested? What happens when they have to make an adjustment? I look at all those things. What happens when they can't depend on power? What else do they have to depend on? I look at everything, their technique, their defense, their offense, all of it. And I look at Crawford as one of those special guys. I don't care if you guys are tired of me saying it. I look at him. Look, Canelo's special too. I get it. And he's bigger. I get that too.
So I called his bluff. I said, if you want to do it, let's do it at 152. Mayweather explained that while Canelo made the weight, he later came into the fight weighing significantly more, around 168 or even close to 170 pounds, while Mayweather came in at his usual 151 or 152 pounds. Floyd also took a moment to praise Roy Jones Jr., acknowledging his skill and contributions to the sport. Roy Jones is one hell of a fighter. I can't get on here and hate on his skills. He's been through a lot in the sport and has done so much for boxing. I'm absolutely proud of Roy Jones, Mayweather said. Recently, Mayweather shared his perspective on a potential matchup between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. He cautioned Crawford about the challenges of moving up in weight to face Alvarez, suggesting that Crawford should carefully consider the difficulties of such a fight. Drawing from his own experience, Mayweather emphasized the importance of strategic planning and thorough preparation for a high-stakes encounter like this. Mayweather continued, "If Terence Crawford moves up from 154 to 168 and beats this version of Canelo Alvarez, it would diminish the accomplishment that I achieved when I beat Canelo at his peak." Floyd's words underline the weight of a fighter's legacy and the significance of timing and preparation in the sport of boxing. There are two distinct versions of Canelo Alvarez, and it's clear that Canelo has made his mark in the boxing world.
Yeah. Shakur is, and he's taking on all smoke.
Look, it'd be remiss of me not to talk about the pound for pound #1 in the world, Terence Crawford. Always making headlines these days. He's cemented his legacy. I think certified Hall of Famer whenever he wraps it up. Stepped up in weight, won another world title last time out. Now they're talking about this fight with Canelo Alvarez. It was interesting to see the comments from Canelo on how he sort of assessed Bud Crawford's career. I almost feel after the Spence fight that was like an exclamation point on everything he's done, maybe from the critics who never gave him credit, but it almost seems like Canelo was downplaying his achievements. What do you make of that? Is that to build a fight? Because it sells itself.
Well, I'm gonna tell you like this. I think Crawford rebuttal was everybody always say he hasn't fought nobody, or everybody that he fought was a no name. But I'm gonna tell you like this: what Crawford said, well, there was something until Crawford fought him. So obviously he's doing a great job because he's making everybody look normal.
Not everyone, like when they go against Canelo, I don't think there's anyone else in boxing who you would ask and say this is a possible task for. But for Crawford, because of his pound for pound abilities, and apparently no rehydration clause. Am I hearing that right? He wants full smoke at that weight.
Let's go, man. That's what Crawford wants. He wants to show the world that he's the best. So, and why put stipulations in there when you know that you can be the best? So let's go test ourselves.
Look, I appreciate you taking this time. We don't get to speak all the time, so it's good to get you over here. And maybe we'll catch up later in fight week, but I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.
With a record of 62 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws, including 39 big victories by knockout, Canelo is undeniably a future Hall of Famer. When Floyd Mayweather faced him, the fight took place at a 152-pound catch weight. Although there was no rehydration clause, it's safe to say the bout was essentially at 154 pounds. One thing they both share in common is their age. Floyd Mayweather was 36 or 37 years old when he fought Canelo, and now Terence Crawford is in a similar situation. At 37, Crawford will turn 38 by the time he steps into the ring with Canelo Alvarez. Interestingly, when Floyd fought Canelo, he had already fought twice at 154 pounds, facing Miguel Cotto and Oscar De La Hoya. Recently, Floyd Mayweather and Terence Crawford visited a gym to watch Shakur Stevenson train, offering their support for the rising star. Their visit underscored the strong mentorship and camaraderie present in the boxing community. During the trip, Floyd humorously addressed comments made by Eddie Hearn, who had previously questioned Mayweather's net worth. With a career earning over $1.2 billion, Floyd lightheartedly showed Hearn some of his financial accounts, sparking a friendly back and forth between the two. Eddie Hearn, meanwhile, was seen chatting animatedly with both Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather. The trio appeared to enjoy one another's company, sharing laughs and discussing various topics related to boxing. Reflecting on their time together, Crawford recalled a conversation with Floyd where Mayweather encouraged him to refine his boxing techniques. "He called me early and said, 'Yo, when you spar, I'm coming to the gym,'" Crawford shared. "I didn't really think he'd show up, but when he did, it meant everything. His advice, hearing him in the ring, calling out small details, details. I'm trying my best to follow what he says. I really appreciate him. Crawford emphasized that he could always hear Floyd's guidance during sparring. Yeah, I can hear everything he's saying, Crawford explained. He wants me to box, to keep things in control. Sometimes it's hard to listen, but I know I have to focus more. Crawford expressed his gratitude for the support he's receiving from Mayweather and other prominent figures in the sport, stating, "It's a blessing to have guys like Bud, Floyd, and everyone backing me. I'm just pushing forward, getting better every day." Later, Eddie Hearn reflected on his surprise encounter with Crawford and Mayweather. "I didn't plan to meet with them. I was just at the gym," Eddie said. "They probably heard I was around, so they came by to say hello." Hearn mentioned that despite meeting Floyd several times before, they hadn't really spoken much, but he found Floyd to be quite humorous and entertaining. Eddie also joked about being the one to bring out Crawford's personality, claiming, "I'm single-handedly making him the most popular fighter in the world."
Just said, and I'm paraphrasing because you guys heard it, link will be in the description. He just told you out his own mouth, he's like, fans are saying that Crawford should fight David Benavidez or a true 168 pounder. Doesn't make sense. Bud is after legacy, and then he said, and money. So this proves why I don't want to see this particular fight like some of y'all. He just told you. So this is what I call an advanced cherry pick. Now, I know some people, you're going to start crying. The reason I say advanced, now, it's not an advanced, it's not a cherry pick in the normal sense of like, you know, because this would be an accomplishment if Bud can defeat somebody at a higher weight class without acclimating, right? So it's not the traditional cherry pick, but it is still an advance, or this is what I'm calling it, an advanced cherry pick, because his own teammate and friend, Steve Nelson, is telling you there's no reason for Bud to fight a true 168 pounder. He started off by saying Canelo Alvarez started off smaller, like a welterweight earlier in his career at 54, and then made his way up to 68. So that lets me know the mentality from Team Crawford is Canelo, we know he has shown signs of slippage and being a little bit older.
You know, it's funny. What I'm saying here? What was that? Well, yeah, I've never really had a long conversation with Floyd before. I've met him maybe half a dozen times. Just a quick hello here and there. But that's about it. I'll tell you though, the guy's hilarious. Now, here's the thing. I'm single-handedly making Terence Crawford the most popular fighter in the world. Why? Because I'm the only one who's really brought out his true personality. Whether it's true or false, you can't deny it. Terence Crawford is already one of the top fighters in the sport. But even if he wasn't, I'd still be saying this because I know the business side of things. He's a working man. As for top, I might just say he's top, but I'll tell you this. He's incredibly humble. Let me give you an example of just how humble he is. Terence Crawford is staying with Steve Nelson's team at a hotel across from the Cosmopolitan Group, a really nice hotel. Now, there are plenty of fancier hotels in Las Vegas, right? But Crawford has a standard room there, and we offered to upgrade him to something more luxurious. We told him, hey, if you want, we can get you a palatial suite at any hotel in Vegas, and he turned it down. Instead, he said, I want to stay with Steve for the week in a standard room. To some, that might seem like no big deal, but trust me, it's rare to find someone in his position who would do that. Floyd? No chance he'd do that. What I love most about being around Terence Crawford is the respect he has for the sport. For example, last night, Terence was watching Shakur Stevenson spar, 14 4-minute rounds with 30-second breaks in between. Both Terence and Floyd watched the entire sparring session. Afterward, they went to another ring and watched Ray Ford spar as well. It's that kind of dedication and love for the sport that really stands out. Eddie Hearn also praised Terence Crawford, calling him probably the most humble fighter in the elite circle of boxing. Despite being one of the best in the game, Crawford remains grounded and approachable, something that sets him apart from others. Hearn also highlighted Crawford's authenticity and the respect he shows for the sport, which truly showcases his genuine character. Now, let's talk about this potential fight between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. Teddy Atlas raised an interesting point. Could Canelo handle a fighter like Crawford, who's smaller, faster, faster, and more elusive. Atlas emphasized Crawford's superior defensive skills, footwork, and ability to create angles, all of which could exploit Canelo's occasional tendency to slow down, especially as he's getting older. The real question is whether Canelo can still close the gaps quickly, or if Crawford's speed and movement will keep him off balance. Atlas also wonders if Crawford could neutralize Canelo's power by staying elusive and not allowing him to land his big shots. It's
moved up and won, and Canelo moved up and lost. I don't think that was a strong point. The reason why, and I love Terence Crawford, but I understand people gonna get hurt and all that, so y'all get hurt in comments all that. But I don't think it was a strong point because Canelo Alvarez actually moved up and won. I mean, he moved up a lot of weight classes, but if you want to talk about light heavyweight, he moved up and he beat Kovalev. He knocked Kovalev out the first time he moved up. Then he moved up again and he lost to Bivol. 115, 113, losing to Bivol. Terence Crawford, on the other hand, he moves up to 154. He won 115, 113, but it was against an 11-0 Madrimov who didn't really have much of a resume. So, I mean, it's just different. Let's be honest. Madrimov, you can't really name who's his biggest win. Canelo Alvarez and what he had to say about Terence Bud Crawford was false. Terence Bud Crawford has more than one good win. He had one significant win, which was like his biggest win, but he had many of good wins. A lot of people like to bring up Holster, which, I just think he was too much for him, to be honest. But I do like his Sean Porter win, right? I like the way he dismantled Kell Brook. He had some wins. I mean, even against Gamboa at the time, that was really when you were like, oh, this Terence Crawford is really too much for this division. So, I mean, yeah, Errol Spence was his biggest win, but he didn't just have.
Seems like the fight may not be official yet, but it's close to being a done deal. So, early thoughts on Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez? Well, my first thought is, can Crawford handle the weight jump? That's the big question. People will look at Crawford and say, oh, he had some hiccups in the past. But who doesn't? Everyone has challenges, right? When you eat something that's a little difficult to digest, it can sometimes lead to hiccups. It's not uncommon, right? We've all had those moments when food seems tough to break down, and your body reacts in ways you might not expect. Well, in the same way, Terence Crawford, despite being a fighter, is human. Even he's not immune to the occasional hiccup, even if they don't stop him from winning his fights. He's a great fighter, no doubt, but sometimes, like when you're dealing with something hard to digest, things don't always go as smoothly as expected. That doesn't stop him, though. He pushes through just like he did in his last fight. And remember, he did win the fight. A lot of people criticize me for always praising Terence Crawford, saying I overhype him. They ask, who's he really beaten? Well, let's break it down. Crawford is a unified champion across multiple weight classes. He started out by unifying the lightweight division, then moved on to the junior welterweight division, and finally he unified the welterweight division as well. Sure, the exact weight classes may be up for debate, but the fact remains, he unified 3 major divisions in boxing. He moved up in weight and consistently defeated anyone who stood in his way. Most notably, he beat an undefeated fighter in Errol Spence, a man many considered one of the best out there, pound for pound. And it wasn't just a win, Crawford dismantled Spence. Some even argue that he might have ruined Spence, both physically and psychologically. We don't know for sure yet, because Spence hasn't come back to the ring since that fight. But Crawford has done everything that has been asked of him, and he's done it in a way that's nothing short of superb. It's not just about winning, it's about how you win. I focus on the versatility of a fighter, how well they adjust under pressure, and what happens when they can't just rely on power. Crawford's ability to adapt, his technique, his defense, his offense. He's got it all. And I get it. Some people are tired of hearing me praise him, but I stand by it. He's one of the special ones. Look, Canelo Alvarez is special too. I'm not denying that. Canelo's bigger, and he's accomplished a lot, but that doesn't take away from what Crawford has achieved. Crawford's accomplishments speak for themselves, and he continues to prove his greatness every time he steps in the ring. Recently, Canelo made some comments that seem to downplay Crawford's achievements, perhaps to set the stage for a potential fight, but I think Crawford responded in the best possible way. He addressed the critics who say he hasn't faced top-tier competition, pointing out that the fighters he's beaten were considered top-level until he dismantled them. Crawford doesn't just beat his opponents, he makes them look ordinary. That's a testament to his dominance. One thing I respect about Crawford is that he seeks no excuses or stipulations. There are no rehydration clauses or catch weights in his fights. He wants to prove he's the best without any limitations. His willingness to face challenges head on with no strings attached speaks volumes about his confidence and his standing as a pound-for-pound great. And let's not forget, Crawford is taking on all comers. He's facing the toughest challenges out there, no matter who they are. It would be remiss of me not to talk about Terence Crawford, the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now. He's been making headlines non-stop, and it's clear that he's already cemented his legacy. I have no doubt that he'll be a certified Hall of Famer. Whenever he steps into the ring, it's clear that he's ready to make a statement, always aiming for the next challenge, whether that's another world title or a fight with a major contender. And now, the buzz is all about his upcoming showdown with Canelo Alvarez. It's been fascinating to hear Canelo's thoughts on Terence Crawford's career. After Crawford's dominant victory over Errol Spence, it seemed like a definitive exclamation point on his achievements. Yet, it also feels like Canelo might be downplaying Crawford's success. The comments from Canelo raised eyebrows, almost as if he didn't fully recognize the magnitude of Crawford's accomplishments. What's your take on this? Do you think it's a strategy to hype up the fight, or does Canelo genuinely not see Crawford as a threat? Let me tell you, I think there's always been this narrative that Crawford hasn't faced the toughest competition, with many critics calling his opponents no names. But here's the thing, Crawford has consistently proven them wrong. Every fighter he steps up against ends up looking ordinary in comparison. It's a testament to how great Crawford really is. He's making top-tier fighters seem like just another opponent. And when it comes to Canelo, it's interesting. There's no one else in boxing right now who presents the same kind of challenge for Crawford. Crawford's pound-for-pound abilities are unmatched, and the rumored lack of rehydration clauses shows just how confident he is. If the fight is truly happening, Crawford's looking to give it his all. No restrictions, no excuses.
Called me early, it's like, yo, when you spar, I'm gonna come to the gym. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna spar at 4 o'clock. I really didn't think he was gonna pull up, but he pulled up. It means everything, his advice and listening to him in the ring. He calling out little shit. I'm trying to make sure I do what he says, so I appreciate it.
Can you hear him when you were sparring?
Hell yeah, I can hear everything he's saying. He want me to box, he want me to, I can hear him, but sometimes it's like, it's hard to listen sometimes. I gotta listen a little bit more. A hell of a blessing to have Bud, Floyd, all these guys backing me, and I appreciate them. I'm just trying to keep pushing and keep getting better and better.
That's the mentality Crawford has. He wants to prove once and for all that he's the best. Why would he limit himself with stipulations when he knows he can rise to the challenge? He's ready to show the world what he's capable of. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat. It's not every day we get to catch up, and I'm glad we had the chance to discuss this huge fight. Hopefully we can reconnect later as the fight draws closer. Dan Rafael has been vocal about the long-anticipated clash between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Fans and analysts alike have been eagerly speculating about this fight for quite some time. Rafael credits Eddie Hearn, the promoter, for pushing the fight forward and mentions that Canelo has expressed interest in making it happen. However, there seems to be a slight shift in Canelo's attitude. Known for his sharp business acumen, Canelo is also looking for a significant financial reward from this bout. There's no denying that the excitement for the fight is palpable, but the financial incentives behind it are just as important. For Canelo, there aren't many middleweight opponents left who can capture the public's attention like Crawford can. Crawford's exceptional skills combined with his growing reputation make this fight incredibly compelling for boxing fans worldwide. I've also heard some rumors that Canelo is considering Crawford for his May fight. Dan, can you shed some light on this? What's the latest? Well, it's still an ongoing situation. There's nothing confirmed just yet. Things are still up in the air, and we're waiting for more clarity on the situation before we know anything definitive. It's no secret that this fight has been talked about by many within the sport for quite some time. In fact, it's a matchup that has captured the attention of a lot of people, especially Turki Alek from Saudi Arabia, who has shown a strong interest in making it happen. Of course, for this fight to come to fruition, someone will need to put up a significant amount of guaranteed money, and Alek seems to be the one most likely to do so. He has been closely working with Terence Crawford and was involved in Crawford's last fight in August, when he faced Israel Maima. This is clearly a fight that Crawford has been vocal vocal about wanting. On the other hand, Canelo hasn't explicitly called for it. In fact, he's downplayed the idea a bit in the past.
Canelo has shortlisted Crawford for the May fight, his fight in May. Dan, what's happening?
Yeah, listen, I think it's just a fluid situation. I don't think there's anything definitive one way or the other at this point. I mean, it's not a secret that that's a fight that's been discussed by a lot of us and by a lot of people in the sport for quite a while. Certainly, it's a fight that Turki Al-Sheikh from Saudi Arabia has shown a lot of interest in. And of course, if it's going to get made, someone's going to have to put up a lot of guaranteed money. And he's probably the person that's going to do it. He's obviously been working closely with Terence Crawford. He was involved with the Terence Crawford's last fight that took place in August when he fought Israel Madrimov. It's obviously a fight that Terence Crawford has been very vocal about wanting. Now, Canelo hasn't ever said he wanted the fight, kind of downplayed it to a certain degree. But it wasn't that long ago. I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, he was doing an appearance and he was asked about it and he didn't close the door on it. In the past, he sort of like closed the door on it and was like, I'm not interested. He's like, listen, I'll talk to anybody and listen to what they have to say about the deal, any kind of deal. So in my mind, that sort of at least cracked open the door to have the conversation. Like he wasn't just saying, forget it in terms of working with Turki or anybody else. So I think that Canelo is a smart person in terms of his boxing, but also in terms of his business. And when he looks around at the landscape and he wants to make a huge amount of money, like all top fighters or any fighter for that matter, and he looks and sees who can I fight where I can make the biggest score, you know.
However, not long ago, during an appearance, Canelo was asked about the potential matchup, and while he didn't commit to it, he didn't shut the door on it either. In the past, he had been more definitive in closing the door, but this time he made it clear he was open to hearing what others have to say about a possible deal. To me, that signals at least a crack in the door for a conversation. He wasn't outright dismissing it. Canelo, being both a smart boxer and businessman, knows how to navigate the landscape. When considering his options, he wants to make the biggest financial gain possible, just like any top fighter would. So when he looks around and sees the potential fights on the horizon, he's thinking about what will bring him the most money. Steve Nelson pointed out that some fans believe Terence Crawford should face a true 168-pounder, like David Benavidez, to solidify his legacy. But Nelson explained that this suggestion doesn't make much sense from a strategic standpoint. Crawford is driven by both legacy and financial success. He sees targeting certain opponents as a way to cherry pick, carefully selecting fights that avoid significant risk. While these matchups may seem bold, they're strategically chosen to favor Crawford, either in terms of size, style, or public perception. This script highlights the ongoing debates about balancing meaningful matchups with financial and legacy opportunities in boxing. As Steve Nelson recently pointed out, paraphrasing his words, which you can find in the description, fans are suggesting that Crawford should face David Benavidez or another true 168-pounder. However, Nelson emphasized that this doesn't make sense from a legacy standpoint. He stated that for Crawford, it's about chasing legacy, but also financial reward. This statement gives insight into why some fans, like myself, aren't enthusiastic about this potential fight. This, in my view, is what I call an advanced cherry pick. Now, I know some of you may start criticizing this term, but hear me out. It's not a typical cherry pick in the sense of selecting an easy opponent. If Crawford were to defeat someone from a higher weight class without proper acclimation, it would still be a significant accomplishment. However, it's still what I'm labeling an advanced cherry pick, based on insights from his friend and teammate Steve Nelson. He explained that there's no real reason for Crawford to fight a true 168-pounder at this stage. Nelson pointed out that Canelo Alvarez, who started his career in smaller weight classes like welterweight and junior middleweight, gradually moved up to 168 pounds. This shows the mindset of Team Crawford, to follow a path similar to Canelo, despite signs of Canelo's recent decline and aging in the ring. Crawford has acknowledged Canelo as a strong, skilled fighter, even referring to him as a big boy in the ring. However, Crawford also emphasized that boxing is all about action. He believes greatness is proven by stepping up and taking on the toughest challenges. Showbiz the Adult addressed Canelo Alvarez's claim that Crawford only has one big win. While Canelo's statement isn't entirely incorrect, Crawford's victory over Errol Spence Jr. is indeed his most significant win. Showbiz pointed out that Crawford's legacy is far more than just one victory. He highlighted wins over several notable fighters, including Sean Porter, who had never been stopped before Crawford, Kell Brook, whom Crawford dismantled with ease, and Yuriorkis Gamboa, where Crawford first showcased his dominance. Showbiz also pointed to Victor Postol as another key victory in Crawford's career, arguing that Crawford's consistent excellence proves he's much more than just a one-hit wonder. Now, when Crawford mentioned that he moved up and won, while Canelo moved up and lost, it wasn't necessarily a strong point. As much as I respect Crawford and I understand the passion of his supporters, I don't think this was a solid argument. After all, Canelo did move up and win, specifically when he knocked out Sergey Kovalev to win the light heavyweight title. Although he lost to Dmitry Bivol in a close decision, Canelo's move up in weight was still a significant achievement. On the other hand, Crawford's recent move to 154 pounds was successful, but it was against an undefeated but unproven fighter in Madhu, whose resume was lacking, so the comparison isn't entirely fair. Let's be honest here, while Crawford's victory over Errol Spence Jr. is undoubtedly his biggest win, it's not his only noteworthy accomplishment. He has had several significant wins, including over Sean Porter, Kell Brook, and Gamboa, fights that helped cement his status as one of the best. While people often talk about the Postal win, it's clear Crawford's career is built on a solid foundation of consistent excellence, not just one big victory. That wraps up today's video. Stay tuned for more, and I'll catch you next time.